We're hanging out in Denver getting ready for another UFC card, and I was going to say familiar face, but you know what? The cycle changes so much in UFC with the fans that, hell, I remember talking to Frank Trigg for his comeback, and he's like, yeah, no one really knows me now. You've been away for a while.
Yeah, about 18 months. It's been a long time. A suspension and then 2 knee injuries, so it's kept me out of the sport for a while. I was supposed to fight a year ago exactly after my suspension. I blew my knee out against Drew McFedries, didn't get to fight him, and then rehabbed and tried to fight Wilson Govea this last August, and then I completely tore my meniscus, so I had to have my whole knee redone again. And it's been a long layout, but you're right, there's so many new faces and there's so many UFCs. I mean, it seems like there's 2 a month now that there's so many new characters in the sport that, people are definitely starting to kind of get lost in the mix unless you're knocking people out occasionally.
Yeah. Well, you look a little different. Do you recognize it? I mean, your face looks a little thinner. I mean, obviously you're going to be a thinner guy down at 185.
Definitely fighting at 185, but I did so much rehab on my knee that I've ran 2 marathons, rehabbing it. So my weight gradually came down. I mean, it really wasn't too much of a deal. So I've been wanting 185s for a long time. I'm more of a rangier fighter, so I'll be one of the taller fighters in that division. That's what I've wanted for a long time.
Yeah. As a fighter, how do you know how low to go? Because obviously anyone who's 6 foot to 6'2", I guess could be 185, maybe 170, like a Mike Swick, and yet you see guys that tall who are heavyweights. So how do you know, judging from your body type?
I don't know. I didn't wrestle while I played football growing up, so this, cutting weight, it's somewhat new to me. I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years in the UFC, but this is somewhat new to me. I don't know. Making it to 85. My first UFC fight was heavyweight, then light heavyweight, and now I'm in middleweight. So, I guess you'd have to start telling how you felt. You really have to go by how you feel, and I feel good. And I still did all the same lifts, so all my strength was the same in a lot of the stuff. So that's kind of how I gauged it.
All right. Now it's been a long time since the last fight. The last fight, if I'm correct, was
my face smashed by Anderson Silva.
Which, I was reading some of the stories that people have done on you before this. It's pretty sobering, some of the stuff you were saying about Silva, that, he took care of you. He took care of you pretty badly. Well, what's it like going in there with him? Because obviously, there's a mental aspect to it. You talked a good game beforehand. I remember sitting down with you, and I was like, you know what? Maybe size is going to be a difference. And then, yet you say now that you didn't think you had any shot.
Oh, no, I'm not going to say that I never had any chance. There's always lightning could always strike once, and that was the only chance that I thought that I had. I knew I was the only thing I had going to that fight that I could use to my benefit was going to be my size. I even missed weight. I think I was a pound over. I had to cut it with the athletic commission giving me the 2 extra hours. That was the only benefit. It was like the only chips I could try and put in my corner to go against that fight. But otherwise, trying to fight someone like that. I grew up playing football. Like I grew up, hitting people and kicking people. That's just the different sports to us in Brazil.
So what's it like in there with him? Obviously you didn't last as long as Griffin, but you could see from the way Griffin kind of broke down mentally in the fight, where it was like, geez, I can't catch the guy, and he's hitting me with everything.
He's just a man. He's a true master. The guy's just a legend in his own time right now. And if you watch what he's doing, he did the same thing to Forrest he did to me. When he caught his leg and kicked him, and he's doing that. He's switching from southpaw stance to conventional, and he knows we like to kick. He knows that certain people like to kick, so he's setting us up. And, like I said, he's been doing it his whole life. And that's the difference in us American kids that haven't been, and trying to catch up to someone that's been doing it their whole life. He's just light years ahead of most people right now. But I'm sure there's someone out there stylistically that, is going to match up with him. And I'm hoping it's Chael Sonnen.
Yeah, I would think it's going to have to be a guy who's going to slow the fight down and get it to the ground.
Yep, I'm hoping so too.
Yeah. So you're also coming back from dealing with pain meds, right? Mm-hmm. You got suspended for a while there. So I wanted you to talk about that because I think when guys go away on a suspension, a lot of fans, a lot of media are like, screw him, what's wrong with him? Mm-hmm. So explain, what was going on and why you were using them.
Mm-hmm. 2007 against Thiago Silva, I blew my knee out, and that was the first time I'd ever been prescribed a Vicodin. And from then to the Anderson Silva fight, to about 2000 into 2008, it was just a continuous roller coaster, up and down, different injuries. I had to pull out of Rashad Evans' fight when I busted a bone in my foot, and then to top it off, I'm an addict. My father was an alcoholic. My mother, did speed her whole life, so I have it in my blood. So it was something I just took hold of me very fast, and it's a shame that it grabbed hold of me in my sport, in my career job that I have, in an injury. That's what started off, was an injury, and then it just grew from there. So I had, of course, about 2 years of on off until it was just a daily use thing to just train. So it was it was a blessing in disguise. I have about 20 stitches across my face from Anderson Silva, and that's 2 wake-up calls for me. That's about getting that suspension and losing that fight to him. But getting caught by the athletic commission was I have to thank him. I have to thank them in the UFC because it saved my life.
Did you officially have to go through channels to go? You didn't do rehab or anything like that. How stuck on them were you?
I didn't have to do any of that. I mean, they gave me a 9-month suspension. The athletic commission slammed me pretty hard on the financial part of it, but I put myself in rehab. I mean, I put myself in there. I actually moved away from home. I moved to a different state. I stayed there for 30 days in a rehab center. I didn't tell no one about it. I mean, I didn't have to. I mean, I went away and I stayed there and I did it for myself. I mean, I left for my family. I didn't speak to no one. I didn't write letters. I mean, I just went and stayed there for 30 days to take care of myself, and I can honestly say it was the best 30 days of my life. Yeah. Since then, each month has just gotten better and better.
So what's it like going through that? What's the actual experience for those 30 days, and then the I guess the weeks and months right after?
It's just learning about what your addiction is, and it's just about helping you get off them. But the biggest thing is about just helping you stay.
What were some of the things you were stuck on? Because we've heard of some of these things with fighters and with football players, with other athletes.
Oh, well, the biggest thing about getting stuck on them is that, if you're an addict, you like the way you make you feel. I had injuries, so, Vicodin worked. On top of it, some people take Vicodin and they go, yuck. I went, this is great. It's like drinking a beer and that buzz you get. That's the way I felt. So I can relate to these people that get hooked on the narcotics. It makes them feel good. So how can anyone, not understand why someone wouldn't get hooked on them or couldn't get hooked on them? So I think that's, a big problem, especially in athletes is, we get paid to perform. And when they're hurt, what's there to use? There's pain prescription meds. But there's a line. Once you cross it and you cross that addiction line, there's no turning back. There's no turning back.
Yeah. And the other reason I bring it up with the athletes in fighting is because there are several guys who've dealt with this over time, and I know one of the guys dealing with it right now is Carl Parisian, and I don't know, I personally thought that was probably about 3-4 months ago. He bailed out of another fight, and the reaction was basically screw him, which I don't agree with. I'm not an addict, but I think you can have a little heart. You would understand the position. It sucks. It's your whole life is spinning out of control at that point.
Yeah. It's funny. I was talking to Greg Hendrickson about him too, and they were saying the same thing. Is he's always been someone that was really, really cool to me. For my first UFC, he was in the corner with me, and he's always been a real good guy to me. I hope he gets help. I hope he does. I hope if he's listening. Rehab was the coolest. It was the coolest shit ever. I loved it. From day one, it was kind of weird, but the way you feel getting out of there. Because I know personally when I was on those things, there was no daylight. There was just no, daylight at the end of the tunnel. I could not see it. I was so in the dark. People think just put them down, just stop using them. That's just not how it is. It's just use them just to get out of bed. It's use them just to, just to move, just to walk around, just talk, just to feel good. So people just don't understand. When you're hooked on them, like an addict is, you need help. You need help, and then you just got to ask for it.
Yeah. Well, you did what was necessary, and obviously you're in good standing with the promotion. After a couple of years, you got a nice matchup here. They didn't put you in with a jiu-jitsu practitioner. They didn't put you in against a guy who's going to lay on you. Sakara is going to stand there and bang with you, and those are the kind of fights that have kind of made James Irvin, when you've been healthy, a guy that people like to watch.
Yeah, the UFC is definitely, they're helping me out big time, bringing me back, first of all, after the suspension, and giving me a matchup like Sakara. They couldn't have given me anyone better. But it seems like until you get in the top 10, they're doing a good job of matching fighters up against stylistically, Once you're in the top 10, you got to fight who's next ahead of you to get for that belt fight. But I bet they got a board where they're breaking down strikers and then grapplers, and then they're matching them up, because who wants to see that? Like you said, a striker or a good grappler, get put against their opposite, what they're good at, and not be able to showcase it. So especially this Versus channel, they put a whole bunch of strikers together on this card.
This is a slam dunk card. Guys are going to stand and slam each other big time.
They definitely are. I can't wait to see Vera and Jones. Yep.